I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teaching and the spiritual community. By the merit of the teachings may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teachings and the spiritual community. By the merit of the teachings may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, the teachings and the spiritual community. By the merit of the teachings may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all living beings.
This one?
Diana's our photographer. We were taking pictures. That's why we're delayed.
This one.
Sorry?
I let it.
We were delayed because Diana's our photographer, so we had to take some pictures.
Right, and also to express that his gratitude for their prayers last night.
Yeah, I already did that.
This one.
And dependent arising, so
I did all
there's
that.
a little business to do before.
Okay. So we had some preliminary preparations here.
This one.
Bad reason.
Oh yeah. Quand j'ai tombé dans tension dans quand j'ai tombé dans tension dans on met l'âme de tension par son jeu son pas mais va sans y être la chance alors. Oh yeah, ça de pas. Ta dia nga jo pa den da wa ba o ma chu ba ka son do wa. Ni mo kyo na ma lu ji so la ta le chung lo yi thong gyo ne. 다는 뒤에도 또 전에 내주 봐야 다는 거 그렇지 해서 쇼로가 되질랍다 야 가다니 쇼리가 봐 이렇게 야
We'll begin with a prayer from the Madhyamaka sorry, not a prayer, but a verse from the Madhyamaka Avatara. It's cited on page 120 of the Great Treatise, Volume 3. And it goes as follows. In their minds, yogis perceive that all afflictions and all faults arise from the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, and knowing that the self is the object of that view, they refute the self.
This one?
Oh,
yeah. Oh, that and that. Nature basis in Medora. Oh, Tenekansa Tarvatan Dunega. Kenda. Kenda's a cane, Chatan, Yamo, Connection, Yoma, Geshe Tangan, Kansa to Zuxiora. Only Yamon Baker, Samade Kondoda, Naje, Chato, Nanzo, Konzo, Chatan, Yamo give. Kyungi Sam Sama Yamo with Kyanga. Tell it then any Lumagi, Luda, Nagi, Cheba, Yambas Nemedu. Samade, Yonsa, it's our the Karesana. Yamukyana Malu, Jigsola Talejo. Jiberan Shinchangi Pumbunga and Aria. Nase Rangone Trubashi, Ranga Pumbula one Kun Gendabichik. Pumbula Loss of Tavichi. Some Shuk Chambashora. Or Dilatani Yungi or Esungara. Oh, this.
Yogis here means those who are intent on achieving liberation, that they are focused on analyzing what is the cause of all the faults, and faults here, afflictions and faults here means attachment and hostility and so forth, the afflictions, and then also all the karma that we accrue from motivated by these, whether it's verbal, physical, verbal, or mental karmic actions, and then we so then they analyze and see that they arise from this reifying view of the perishing aggregates, so, viewing the aggregates which are in a constant state of change, and then what do you say? Maybe perceiving or cognizing in there, or misapprehending is perhaps a better word, a self that is within or upon the aggregates, that is, what do you say, exists by as its own entity, that is categorically different from the body and mind. It exists intrinsically from its own side.
Nyama kyona malun jisola tale chon loy thongju nesero. O tangbu te ngazo nyamo le tene le sa le tene kewa chimo ki kewa sange lengre se yorno. O tezu da to samlo mangbu tangu yechire. Yena ko tande ngazo pedelia sedele kora chashana. Tangbu tene nganzi rishke nga samsado. O ne trado kenanda shenji longjulia shenja napsim kenanda. O tingala kogudo sam nyamo kero. O tene chado ke rang tingal koyo kol mangbudu tinga poko ye samche. Rawa lungba ina ma ke du tinde chigora. O te chidu ko chagdang ke samlu te yongso. Tele tene lesa gdo tabshi chigdo. O keche shegdo tene pandore kamshi kyagre sobo ndo re keche shegro ma kyagre kyabu karshini chigdo. Lesa gdo. Tele tene randa shenlia tungyen jungwa de kongo sum joguda. Marazo. Nga sabza nga de shibje te chikko chagdang samlu shuk chimbushke tene nga chikko na de shenda samlu ke tele tene lesa. Tele tene chima soso kumare shukku chevene soso changan roya soso shikwe tungyen jungwa de kongo sum jogde gara. Mo tiende ko tele tene ne kyawa ne kyawa tusun jogde yore se yora. Dichila.
The beginning then alludes to this process of the afflictions giving rise to karmic actions, and then those karmic actions producing both pleasurable and painful results. If we look at that more closely, then first we generate this misapprehension of a self, and then based upon that, we then generate some kind of perhaps jealousy, seeing others' possessions, and then that leads to strong feelings of attachment and hostility, and then through attachment and hostility we engage in actions like going to war and so forth in order to procure that. Well, then we have also the feelings of, what do you say? Oh no, what is that? Sometimes that word slips my mind. The first of the mental karmic actions. You know, what is that? No, of the 10 non-virtuous deeds, the 3 of the mind. Yeah.
Nusem, napsem.
Yeah. No, I need it in English. Yeah.
Nusem.
Napsem. Napsem is
shenji punzolia ndobache.
Covetousness?
Covetousness. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Covetousness, and then you go about procuring others' things, and your attachment and your hostility increase, and so in this way, and you engage, well, we engage in actions that are harmful, bring harm and to others, and also pain to others and ourselves. And so in this way, then we can see the faults of what it means by faults here. Wow.
Oh yeah, penanga zo pesi shana. Pombu chumbu to zundwa. Yam pombu chumbu shira che pesha mangbu yore. But kuna mesi kazi mesi nga chu nga tiana zoya yomara sana. Pesha yore, longju yore. Ta yina ko wang chumbu shira yore. Yina nga wang chumbu yin, ta nga ji yin samje. Tanda pesha mangbu sagdwa. Misane pesha mangbu sagdwa. Mangbu saji ta nga ti ku sam pesha te kishu chichi kishu se ko lesa yora. Ko ti san ti chema ko ha ko te zan lu pombu chimbu mangbu zan lu do. Kera pesha te se se kana tanda. Pa chimbu shewa te zan ga chu shara. Meze ko na zan chu kashi se do. Ti ndi ko musumra. Nga samsang ganzi rawa shibichi ngala shibichi kogi samnam simke chakwa ke telten le sanga ti kogi siche telten tungye nyo de sendi tungye tu kanga te yako o telten ko yo de musum tukdo o dina shinga razu kumshilin jang kyawane kyawa ko tu sundo de yora ene sendilia le sanga san de mi ma do se chima mi yongora o tichila.
We can have direct perception of how this comes about if we do a thought experiment. Think of how a great government official, this happens a lot around the world, where they become, they think, oh, I'm very powerful now, and then they say, wow, they generate some, what is that word? Sorry, again.
Covetousness?
Covetousness. It's seeing that they can acquire a lot of money, and so then they engage in various means to acquire a great deal of money, and not just enough for this lifetime. They need money that's going to be for 4 or 5 generations. They feel they need that much, and so then but then they get caught, and some of them just get killed. Some of them get thrown into prison. So you can see that it's a result. This is, what do you say? We can have a direct perception that it's a result of their non-virtuous deeds. Wow.
Oh yeah, what do you do? Nga shidi ko tu tatu tengen ke sundab shiro. Ani rangwa de shibichi samlu yoza tiwang yongora. Nyamo kyona malin ji sola dale chongwas. Jigbe rangshi jenji pumbulia nga samsa takin pumbuto ko nga wangja chimbuchen takba tengen yin sambar mado. Ko nga yurchi chima kosa sha sana sobda soyin samlu korto umdo. 그래서 그 당시 지겨라. 근데 나서 나 라와치 요나샤 겨라. 텔레 때는 고냐 못 경강 용도 와서라. 달래죠. 나데 풍부의 정신이야. 나데 풍부라 때는 딱 왔삼기. 풍부 자와치 되는 나의 자와치 게 지요. 디마도 매삼배나 된저 삼을 숙침 비용 그 말해. 그래서
네.
어디로 달래죠. 로이통 되네서.
Then you can see that they have this strong feeling that they exist. What do you say? The strong feeling that they exist from their own side, that they have kind of, they exist as their own entity. And if we're looking at this official, then he or she has this strong feeling, and then although the aggregates are constantly changing and perishing, the official never brings this to mind. Instead, they think quite the opposite, that they won't change, and they have this. Then, based on that, they develop afflictions that give rise to covetousness, and then they engage in these non-virtuous actions and experience the results.
뭐야? 이제 nyamukyo malun jisola tali chunga loyi tonggyunes. Tani ndi yudu tochene nenjubayi tani gogor chesigwa.
Then Ken was saying, then it never comes to their mind that perhaps this self that they're cognizing doesn't exist. That's then the next two lines of the verse then say, and knowing that the self is the object of that view, they refute the self.
뭐야? Tani ndi yudu tochene sudu nga samsang nganzi di taadi kandrechin zingidosana nga rangwene tuba. Rangwene tuba sinzingi oresi ora. O nganzi di nga rangwene tuba sinzimba di sheba chene, ani nenjuba ke nga rangwene tuba di ngogi oresi ora.
How are we misapprehending the self, or misapprehending the self as being existing from its own side, independent? And so then the yogis analyze and see that this is the self that has to be refuted, and set about to refute it.
No, the indiko ngazu tina sungutwa. Shikabata, this next sungutwa. Dikin rawa meba de tena tani yume, tangwen zingora. Nga samsang ngazi tamito se tangi di karresana. Dikin rawa meba de tena tani yuma yese. Oh, the rawa veta. The yobama resigora. Rawa veta the karsigresna, shigaben trebanalia. The lataji chavani kanshingobu nam de shana ramalebang orang shidis. De meba ne da meba o sigdwa. Says ko pungbuta. semda pungbunga bula sobalia tenjin trebani joma maimba koran ge yotom ge nga chiyo ban singor te da budela ta sigor te meba dela ta meba sigor resungudo di showdan de so shipya shipchul doa
shipchu
por zero ya por one kawando tane dire
The 400, Aryadeva's 400 identifies this. What kind of self is it that is being refuted? And it's this self that is independent. It's under its own power. So then, what is being established is all of this is without its own power. Therefore, there is no self. That's page 212 of the volume 3. And all of this is in the great treatise. What's that?
Please repeat the quote.
Oh. All of this is without its own power. Therefore, there is no self. When we cognize that self, when we misapprehend the self, we don't see it as being a dependent arising, and so, but in fact, it is a dependent arising. So, all of this, so that we see it as being independent, but in fact, it's a dependently existent phenomena. All of this is without its own power, therefore there is no self. And then the Chandrakirti's commentary on this.
Again, on the same page?
What's that? Same page, yeah. Did Kata?
십자 십시지.
No, they.
시시원.
Oh, did Yan Logi. So to identify what is being refuted, Chandrakirti says, it is that which exists essentially, intrinsically, autonomously, and without depending on another.
그래서
Wow.
오야. 대나시단 돈날에 쓰고도. 뭐 단도 뒤질라는 감말. 땡진 레버리 좋아하시도. 다들 땡진 레버리 좋아하시도. 속보다 셈당 소화단 것이 풍부하다. 땡진 렐네 거고 죽고요마도. 풍부하다 만드는 미다가 뭐 죽토고요 말아. 되게 땡진 레버리 좋아하시기요라.
Right.
세상.
Right.
랑게 뭐 주발로 콘서트에 냠도 쟤는 뭐 죽고요마도. 그래서 마서는 뭐 죽토고요 말아.
Right.
오야.
So the self or the person has to arise in, or what do you say, to achieve its entity or achieve its identity. You can translate that to those two different ways. In dependence upon the aggregates, in dependence upon the body and mind, or form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness. It only it has no other way than that to what do you say, establish or to exist, really, to exist as its own entity.
오야. 뭐 되나시고 뭐부지 깨버이나고 교단 깨를 때네 되네 라원을 코나 토용그리 삼께와도 요 말해서 거라. 랑은에 깨와요 말해서. 내사 줄을 주실 때는 요구르지 않아서나 우티네 토용고 요거 자서 달리지 요샤. 랑은에 깨와요 말해서 거도. 돌에 가르스네 고 땡진 레버지 깨와서 딘 도들 남네 하고도. 네 마드베 쉬벤 돌에 37년 누가. 누가. 디 가리어스나 강시 깨래 깨봐 때 맞게 송고도. 강시 교대 깨래 때네 깨봐대. 아니 맞게 바래 송고요래. 어디 가르쳐서 깨래 깨봐대 맞게서도 깨봐대 맞게서는 되게 말와. 디 맞게서야 돼 가르쳐서 강시 깨래 깨봐대 맞게. 깨래 깨외 랑신요 마이에서. 깨와 매서야 돼 깨와 랑신지. 깨와 매버들 깨와 매서요 송고도 사이 깨래 깨외 랑신요 마이. 깨라 라레 칸데 동바셔. 교대 깨 속발라 때네 고야 깨운데 고라한테는 속바 차셔 망부질러 떠진 jel네 에너지 쪽으로 마도지게 고 차셔에다 덕시치 로벌 때문에 고라 장장야 주의지요 말어. 가시 깨를 끼고 때마지 깨를 깨외 랑신요 마이에서. 깨라 라레 칸데 동바셔에서. 깨다 교대 깨라 라레네. 아니 차셔 속바 라 때진 대와데 장문에 동바래서 거라. 관계 동리시대 바요인에서. 간사 관계 동반이 있어야 돼. 아니 땡진 대반이 좋아라. 샤고 그래. 땡진 대반이 좋아 많이 배전에 장문에 주가지 요 말에서. 땡진 적신소나. 아니 수단 템바. 야구제제 년간 매바 야구제 동반이 좋아시 버려서 거라. 바요였어야 돼. 땡진 대반이 좋아라야 샤마도나 레좀데도 강가 매버셔요라. 디 속반에 요데 랑운에 요 말했을 동반이도 시기요라. 그래서 랑운에 동 땡진 대발 중앙에 거고예. 랑운에 매세. 군주다 된다면 니가 좋도고요라. 어떤데지 좋도고 거래서 그다 도나냐. 딜로네 야구라.
네.
숨 등에 구이바.
네. We'll start with another verse. This one is on page 188 of the same volume 3, of the great treatise, and it's stated in here that in the question of the Naga king Anavatapta, so whatever is produced from conditions is not produced. That sounds a little strange, right? Whatever is produced from conditions is not produced. And then it explains it in the next line of the verse. It is not intrinsically produced. Whatever depends upon conditions, I consider empty. It's saying that although we misapprehend things as existing from their own side, intrinsically, and having an independent existence, they in fact are dependently existent. So then they come into existence in dependence upon causes and conditions. Again, I was giving the example earlier of a sprout needing to come into existence in dependence upon its causes, such as moisture and warmth of the soil and the seed and the fertility of the soil. All this brings about what do you say? A sprout. The sprout just can't suddenly appear there independent of these causes and conditions. So then one who knows emptiness, that empty of existing from its own side independently, then is considered diligent. It says here diligent, but the meaning here is that somebody who knows how things are working. It's basically and how things operate. Wow.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Oh, they you let me out. Oh, God, it's over there. Kiwatirwa. Nugulo Sobaya Kiwati Sigora. Only Rangwini to be Kiwandu, some get to Zobe, Kiwatsegi or Rangwini to be Kiwayo or something. Any Tangjamba that Tezukas at Tandosa. Cudus Yores, Cudus Coyores, Nazutungi or Marmado. Cudus Yoni and Tigores, the Takis Gorati. Cui Tangnik Negabnera, you. Any idea on God is Sigora. Just rang when it give you or negers rangatang need units to get on God is. Just so negers rangatang New York and the next way I came God is Sigora. So called rang when it Yawachi take Yawachi and rang when I Yawachi and do some Yora. Taki Sigora.
The Samkhyas and other non-Buddhist philosophers, in order to explain how the sprout arises, they say that it arises from its own side. It exists from its own side, and the causes are just the cause is there. We just can't see it. It's the will of the divine Creator, and various other explanations. Wow.
That's it. Today, Shenges Shenda Dozoge. Shenleke was a rank due to the Yomade. It was, Rangwin to be Kushenlet and Debushanki on Grace. Rangwin to be Kushenlet and Debushanki Grace or Shenges. The Chiruba Shenda Kanga cigarette, not a number Sangi Bengo to the Sigara. Rangwin to be Ku. Nessa Chulu Tesca. Rangwin to be Jebu. Good and Jebuni Shenjan. Rangwin to be changed, then you can do Yogore. rāngwāngwē shēng sī tu tērē. Chīk tī yuwa, chīk tī gyū yuwa nī drēbu mē na rāngwē nī trūpa shēng rī kī mā rē. Gyū khurā yuwa rā. Tē tī gyūr nī drēbu kē su na drēbu kī kī rā. Tē tēnshīn drēl nī yā yuwa rā. Gyū tē gyūr nī yā drēbu rī yuwa rā. Tē rāngwē nī trūpa gyū tā rāngwē nī trūpa drēbu sī gyū shēng lā tēn drēbu shēng kē na khurā nī kā rāngwē tsū lī yā yuwa nī kē kū yuwa rā. Sā kū shēng kē sī na
That's called production from itself. There's also production from other. Here, production from others means that both the cause and the effect exist from their own side, intrinsically. And so then this is a view held by non-Buddhist philosophers as well as Buddhist philosophers, all the realists, that means up to the Prasangika, all the different tenet systems up to the Prasangika hold this view. And so in order for something to be produced from other, where both the cause and the effect exist from their own side, then the cause and effect would have to be there together. And so our explanation is that first the cause exists on its own and then goes through a constant process of transformation, and then the effect arises. That means dependent arising. That's a dependent arising of causes and conditions. The effect is a dependent arising of causes and conditions.
Rāngane trūbe jikdēngi chebabu drebudus tigri yasēra. Rāngane trūbe tūchēn chāmi tākba wō tigin drebu kānga tigi wāri yasēra. Rāngane trūbe tū tākba rāngwa tigi ane drebu kānga tigi wāri yasēra. Wō tindi kēlengi dwa.
We have the non-Buddhist philosophies that the cause that exists from its own side, a divine creator, gives rise to effects. The cause that exists from its own side, partless particles give rise to effects. And the cause that exists from its own side, let's see, Tama, Chame do then.
Oh, they do.
Oh, do, yeah. Permanent time, sorry. Permanent time gives rise to its own effects.
Yeah, Rangune Trube ne sa chuli tushi sobalatane Rangune Trube nyugitiviser. Namba inati lagura. Mama was
Also, the realists say that the causes and conditions that exist from their own side, the seed and the warmth of the soil and so forth, all these give rise to the effect that exists from its own side.
Rangune Trube nyuguda sabyon sashira. Sabyon da nyuguni de Rangune Trube shenjene ko sabyon ten nyuguti yona. Ane rangwa shensi niga dusu yogura. Di yomarwa. Sabyon yude nyugu yomara. Sabyon yude nyugu yomara. Sabyon de nyurne nyugu de yogura. Di indi ko nyugu yude sabyon de yomara. Sako rangwa soso amare se rangwa soso ayine jindu shi yogura. Tenjin relni yongudwa. Gyudile tenjin didin girochene teni chikbudi ha yongudwa. Sako tenjin relni yongurmado chikdin gyurni chikdi reyogurmado chiki ku rangwandu cheni yongeke medwa. Santi shengi yomare sore, shenle kiwa yomare se. Rangwandu chube kyu shenle teni rangwandu chube shenki yomese. Tila, tendi yore.
When we refute or in the Prasangika refutes, we're talking when we say we, uh, this idea of production from another, we have to say that if the causes and the cause and the effect, if the seed and the water and so forth and the sprout exist from their own side, then they have to exist there together. They have to, because they exist from their own side. Then the causes and effects don't exist together. First, the cause goes through a process of transformation and a constant process of transformation, and then it gives rise to the effect. In this, it's a dependent, the effect is a dependent arising of the causes and conditions. So in that way, then, then so that's a reputation of production from other.
양자 주단 경기 깨버 셔발라 던다 요마르 공연에 요사르 규내가 요요바로 자 양주단 경기 깨발라 던다 요마레 에 코란 깨 심부디 깨기는 사베 코란 깨제바 되그래 사베 깨네 누구 깨로식 말해 저가 통미든 도로래 이거 뒤껴다 요라
A further repetition of production from itself should be mentioned, that they, if there's no purpose, and if it's already been produced, if it exists from its own side and already been produced, then what's the purpose? It would be purposeless to produce itself again. If it did, if the what do you say? The seed did generate itself, then the seed would continually generate itself without any, what do you say, endlessly, and then it would never give rise to the sprout.
교단 경기 양자 개월 제발로 되메버레 지라 개월 되메레세 개월 통미레세 개심버디 양개기 요나 누구다고 코란 개개버 되그래 개월 코란 통미션 제부께 고급라고 말해서라 교니 당도.
So then if we're talking about the permanent, what do you say, that the sprout or the effect, it exists from its own side, and then why would the sprout have to generate itself again? It's already been produced. That doesn't make any sense. And then if it did, or you can say also that it would, if it generated itself, it would just generate itself endlessly. There would be no end to that self-generation.
Shenle Jena Yakin Tangiora. Shenle Jena, Rawandu Drive, Jushenle and Rawandu Drive, Drebu Kiguna, Rangwene Kiguna, Drebu Rangwene Kiguna, Jula Teguma Resigora. Jukoran Drebukoran the Rangwene Kiguna, and Jula Teguma Resigora. Dindico. Rangune Kene, Jula Tegumare, Jula Tegumare, and then you could never Sabula Tegumare. Di mene tamje kecho ure sora. Shen le tene, rangu ne trube kyu shen le tene, drebu shen kiri yo na. Rangu to truba ine chik le tuyo ma re se wara. Rangu ne trube kyu den drebu shen ina, tata palan na shi re do re. Rangu to truba so nga rang trubi se, tata palan na shi re do re. Di ina chik le tuyo ma re. Chik le tuyo me gu ne, di drebu re se ne, ene tamje kya wata wara. 그 탐제를 된 탐제 계스네 되어서 그래. 라완도 트벌 깨베네 되어서 생기나. 생을 때는 깨디 생식이 완전하나 매질래 잡는 것도 못 주고. 매단에 멤버 연구를 해서. 로바네 멤버 깨그리면서 그거라. 그 교인이 개봐요 말고. 교단 대분이 라완도 트벌 생에 찌질을 떼고 말해. 저와요 말해. 저와 매나야고 사비데 그 누구디 돌레테네 깨버래 누구디 남갈레테네 깨버려서 아다 찍버려서 이거라 그 뉴스와 어디지
A fault in saying that there's production from others, then that there would, if the cause and the effect are each exist from their own side, then there wouldn't be any connection or relation between the cause and the effect. And if that was the case, then any cause could give rise to any effect. It would just be like, well, the sprout could arise from a rock or from space. Anything could give rise to anything.
Oh yeah. 다 니가 레께서는 니가 레께 와서 경영 그러와. 달래 매기 셴래 매기 니가 레께 와요 말에 다시 니가 레께는 게 된다고 말해서. 규미 레께 왔지 그래. 규미는. 정제디 양빈 받아서 쓰기도. 잠불인데 컨디션 정어서나. 뒤달을 주요 말해서. 코로나랑 신기 정어래. 송게도 챙게도 제바 분직된 제바 보여 말에 규단계 현당 제바 보게 고 말아. 코로나랑 신기 규면에 깨용 거래서 그거라. 다 규면에 끼기요나. 걔네 탐제를 탐제 깨원 둘세라. 규매근에 끼기요나 깨버세이나. 아니 누구디 사변을 때네 깨세래. 규네 고기요 말에. 누구디 돌을 때네 깨. 누구디 남갈을 때네 깨스네 그래서 그거라. 규면에 끼기요나. 누구 깨와라 규고면나 퍼주 싱글 누구 깨션 디쪽스 간 누구 메디아 가래서 그거라. 오 디데 쪽스 간 메디아 가래. 내사 출리 매스 아니 교고도 와서라. 교고 말은 내 메디아 가래. 내 마디 가래. 찔리게나 탐질레 깨고 그래. 룽바 찔리게나 사지 찔리게나 탐질레 깨고 그래. 뒤 찔리게나 뒤 탐제도 깨고 그래. 야가게나 군가 깨고 군가 가지 메디아. 저요 말은 교르되어라. 나 규밀에게는 탐질레 깨웠다 이렇게 당겨라.
So there's
then
there's non-Buddhist philosophers say that it's produced from both itself and other, and so that's been each of those have been refuted. So that idea has been refuted. Then there's a fourth possibility that it's produced from no cause, causelessly, and so then causeless production is asserted by the materialists. The materialists say, "Oh, everything sort of naturally arises. It doesn't need any divine creator or any causes and conditions. It just naturally arises." And then, well, the same fault as before then can be attributed to this way of thinking, that then any cause can give rise to any effect. It doesn't. If a seed, or if a seed gives rise to a sprout, then anything could give rise to this sprout. if it arises causelessly, it could arise from a stone. It could be the sprout could come from space, and also furthermore, it could arise anywhere. If the sprout is poking out in the soil in the garden, why isn't it arising here in front of us on the table? And then why can't it arise at any time then, if it doesn't need a cause? If it arises causelessly, then it wouldn't matter if it's winter time. If it mattered whether it's cold, then it would have to be dependent upon causes, but it's not. So that the sprout should be there in the winter.
This one.
Drisa.
Yeah, that in the ko umatsawa shiraka surwa. Kyawa ramine trubaka dusa. Ne tashi ko ne kyawa ka wa. Chuki kan mi she du tashi kyawa me ko ni she ri wa. Di na zo long de chilo ne ya wo. Di ka du ba ka so. To shi truko. Shi truko.
The umajawa round. Oh, that did I but she grew 469.
Dale mai shele mi nile mai kumimi no kanda kana ya kyo namya yo mai ese dale kyo yu da tu tukta ko wange kaya namya yo ma ese shele kyo yu da tu tukta kange wange ke to ma ese nigale kyo kumile kyo de yu da tu tukta kange wange shele ke to ma ese gura
Not Rasan, this comes from so this I guess it's called the Seven Extremes. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a verse from the fundamental treatise on page 226 of the volume 3, then that states
Who wrote it? Which text?
Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise, and so it states these four alternatives. That's what it is. The four alternatives. These four alternatives refute the idea of production with respect to what do you say, misapprehending a self of phenomena. So then, or things or objects. So it says, there is no sense in which anything has ever been produced, either from itself, from something else, from both, or without a cause. That is
Tale kewa yudan tu tukta kangi keto kumarese. Shenle kewa yudan yusne longbal siwa sasi siwara. Yusne kungaya siwara. Yudan tu katune shenji yomare. Nigale kewa yomare, kimile kewa yomare siwa. Tale mai shenle me nile me itme. Wabu kanda kana ya kewa name yomare. Yudan tu kawaii na ko tashi kewa di kumarese.
Yeah. Yu dang yu dang du.
Tukta wange yanki gres tukta shenda ga yosne ki gres de ki ma kora yosne yosere doctor ma de ke to pares
So
yo namya yo ma yosere
when production is refuted here, it's refuted by that it won't from the perspective of place, time, cause and also what do you say? Tenet. Tenet means like, where you just say, oh, it's produced because we say it, that's how it's produced. That's not. So that's production from tenet.
This way.
No.
Oh, that and that go. Sanje chumdende karo. And then tonghe ina da nyuhu ina da ngo kanya. Taji yo mare, shenji yo mare, nigale kyo yo mare. Kumili kyo me so des wara. And the kande ki wara na. Tenjin de wara ki wara. Kudan ken gyura che tenji telan delne. Kyude la teni kyudin gyurgin gyuru che ne de budi ki wara. Kyukora mangyuru che de tu kam sabin todo che de ki yo mara. Zako tension table joy kyo yin sum shas. Tension table joy kyo yin de ne rangune tu be kyo yo ma res. Oh di shan ji ba me singe te sum ba le sha. Singe te na ko do. Singe ki ta te subject kan ga de ji du yo. Sa rangune tu be tong ba re chutam ji tension table joy rangune tong be tu be tong ba re so de chiri mudi ba sa ma de Rida Nation to Chicago Beshida Sugar. Till long the China Yam,
so the Buddha then, if production doesn't take place in these four ways, then how does it take place? Then the Buddha stated with the lion's roar that it's takes place by dependent arising. The dependent arising in cause and condition. It's not that the cause sort of, a cause that sort of sits there statically and exists from its own side. It's giving rise to an effect that sits there statically and exists from its own side. That there's a process of constant change of causes and conditions that where each cause and what do you say? And this cause and effect are related or connected, and so it's like an interconnected process of cause, condition, and effect, and this is dependent arising, and so so that's the way production takes place, and so the Buddha stated this with a lion's roar, and then so what that means is that all the non-Buddhist philosophers are like when the lion roars, all the animals run away. So so they're likened to all the other animals running and hiding. It also alludes to the fact that the Buddha is stating this without any fear, fearlessly, like a lion. And how can the Buddha state this without any fear? It's because he can establish it based upon reason, and then through the process of reason and logic, one can come to a direct experience of this. So, and that's what the Buddha has done. So then he's not like, well, I don't know whether I should say this or not, and being a little timid. He just says it right out, that everything is produced as a dependent arising.
Oh yeah, that is long the children are what call Sholuka Niora. Oh, Ke Gasani Ke Legora.
280. There's two verses here. There's a citation here that expresses this. Oh, So this citation is on page 133 of the third volume, and it's from Nagarjuna's praise of the of the Transcendent One. And it reads as follows. Logicians claim that suffering is produced from itself, or from something other, or from both of those, or without a cause. You said it arises dependently. You hold that whatever arises dependently is empty. There is nothing to match your roar. Quote, things do not exist on their own, end quote. Wow. No, yeah. No. And in that same vein, then the Madhyamaka Avatara has, there's a citation here. It's on page 186, and from Chandrakirti's commentary on the Middle Way, where he states, because things arise dependently, these mistaken conceptions cannot bear scrutiny. Therefore, the reasoning of dependent arising cuts all the entanglements of bad views.
tuk tata 이게 둘이야 몸으로 좀 싸우시
No, yeah.
어떻게 전부다 그래서
So how is it that things then exist they exist as dependent designations based upon a basis of imputation that is, you can either think it based upon its parts or its dependent, or its basis of designation, all of which are not the thing itself. The thing is imputed, and then that's enough. That is how it exists. It exists as a dependent designation. And when we take Joshua, for example, that Joshua is not any of his 5 aggregates, but exists as a dependent arising of the name and concept Joshua based upon these 5 aggregates, none of which is Joshua himself. So this is expressed in a verse from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise, again on page 132 of the a great treatise, volume 3, says that which arises dependently we explain as emptiness. This emptiness is dependent designation. This is the middle way. Because there is no phenomenon that is not a dependent arising, there is no phenomenon that is not empty. So now we'll stop and go to the text, the 400. But first, to set our motivation, we should think, I will listen to these teachings today on emptiness, which is the emptiness, which is the cause of liberation, and with I will maybe it's better to say I will listen to and study, reflect, and then put into practice the topic today, which is emptiness, the cause of liberation and omniscience. Nishubale. So we're on the, if we go to the text, we're on the 20th verse. Uh, 20th verse means 295, sorry. And in the, it's on page 247, begins there. The topic here in the the outline is we're on showing the comparative subtlety and coarseness of our own and others' teachings, and it's a specific explanation of that, and we're beginning that, and it begins with those seeking liberation should not try these systems.
오야 게데 로토베 유인베 치린 지템바 치르베 쉐라 오 데네 주나 케게장 데다 주바 리소 셰나세 오 치르베 루미암바 데다 냥코 오네 코 토베 유레 케랑게 딱제 셰셰 틸리아 주면 리그르 바세 나스기오라 오 덴디르 마레스기오라 미리테세 지데 잠sen 남라 체 페지 치지 주에바다 대신 질분 남라 체 페지 룸바 주에바 인식도 지데 잠sen 남라 체 페지 대주다 대주스르 아 장예당 덴바드 디장장 소전스기오라 진세제데 멜리아 지다 짜제 할리아 초바피에스기오라 비서에세 지대 점세 남라 최 배치를 치지 줘봐다스가 치 진시제다 근데 다시 봐 용해다 예산소 민구르기 제도 추주 술 줘봐 셰셰베스 다 고란도 다 점세 다 점세를 말해줄 요래 거서 그래 민구샤도 용해 돈달이야니 다시 봐도 야구 용해다 진시 짜야다 진짜 다시 조치가 어려서라. 근데 셰셰에 타르반 되바 남지 제자 마임바 줘봐다스. 지대 잠세 남다 줘 배지를 치주 줘봐다스로. 오 되더니 제자 말에서 들어가서 제가 셰셰 냠술len제 요 말에서 거라. 딱제 셰가 요 말에서 거라. 대신도 질부 남라 줘 배지를 잡배와다 맹아 땜바서지 룸바 줘봐인베. 질부와도 배지 자도도 파도 ane menga tembase de sobo kanga sikchuje gene dele mesha nima ge sikchuje gara menga tembase do menga tende lu sikchu lu kambusanta tiba mamuta ge lu kambusha shasha tende sigara mo de sigara menga tembase limba choba imbe limbe kejere esere ko kejere esere choba imbe chiruba yone kondusa chiruba mezana zukarishe limba choba Aryadeva namba tamje do pon barshawa ginose o tishi chiru namla so peje limba choba yes o tarwa deva nam tile chever chawa ke yo mareso
So the assertion here is if ordinary people engage in outsiders' practices because they may be perceived by coarse forms of awareness, it is right for you to do so. Then the answer to this assertion is it's not right. The verse reads, Brahmin practices are said mainly to be an outward show. The practices of Nigrantas are said to be mainly stultifying, which is a euphemism actually for in here. But we'll get to that. Since most Brahmin practices here are for outward show, the different practices, recitation of mantras and prayers and burned offerings where you're making offerings to deities and auspicious incantation. We have all this is true, yeah. And repentance, confession, and so forth are mainly an outward show for the sake of reward and respect. So it is said that they should not be performed by those who seek liberation. Similarly, it is said that most of the Nigrantas practices, that the Nigrantas have these practices like sitting, they feel that, well anyway, they sit nakedly in the middle of fires in four directions and with the sun beating down on them in the middle of the day, and they feel that just this, drying out process is eliminating their former bad karma. So, and then they allow their hair to become matted and employ the 5 fires. I guess there's 5 fires. These practices are stultifying. A more literal translation would say are foolish. And so again, I was making the comment, as there's no Nigrantas present, then we can say whatever we want. But so he was joking like that. Therefore, those who seek liberation should avoid them completely.
다니바 원부 멤버 구백개 주식도. 싫어 멤버도 줄에는 건조대 최도 가보지 그래서 와라. 말잖니 가보지 그래서는 잠시 남게 칠칠 라 조연배 원부 멤버 가지에서 와라. 치료게 건담 준다 뜻이다 버려야다. 근데 저 지성자 til 건조 야고도 선 가보지 그래서 와라. 지다 리발랑 발에 잠실 구백개 왔다시기도. 대신 녀몬랑 발에 찔부 발에 짜वर 그러세. 지다 르진 덤바서 시기와라. 르지기 덤바도 되비와라. 기비 마제베 시기인스체. 덤바티나 셰바 강가 덤바레 기부 제어마 정신기 중벌에 시기와라. 시시시 배차 좀 시기와라. 지다 르진 덤바서 르지 파트 제 콘주망 본 등그레테 콘주 배때 받침 끼기도 와. 르진 덤바서 리발랑 발레스 르지게 되네 덤바라 소베 리바토조 리발랑 발레스 잠세리 그바 깨왔다로 배야보레선 덤바 르지디 빼자 친구 되고도 삼제 가와끼 그래서라 지다 리발랑 발레 잠세 그바 깨왔다 잠세 덤바 보토조 그바끼 대바심끼 그래서라 대신도 르니라게 세로와서 동해시 녀몬베 군주 랑바 레에세 대신 녀몬랑 발레세 녀몬스도서 녀몬 버셔서 깔레 망부냥게 소불이 앞에 동해 망부냥게 들 녀몬랑 바스고라 이 녀몬도 뒤에 동해 망부랑 해서래 대신 녀몬랑 발레 찔부 발레 써완디스 되네 돌로마고 님한테도 식주 깔레 시다 잡고도 추거든데 배하고도 좀 대백기요라 찔부 발레 그것이 써완 줄로서 거라 찔부 발레 써완 줄로서
This is a continuation of that specific explanation, verse 296, how those of inferior intelligence develop respect. So these outward shows then are pleasing to people. They feel that they generate some kind of sense of faith in this. And so then the verse states as follows: Brahmins are revered because they adopt the orthodox. Nigrantas are pitied because they adopt the deluded. Here, well, I'll continue with the commentary. Brahmin practices are mainly for outward show. Thus, some unintelligent people revere Brahmins because they adopt orthodox practices, such as reciting the Vedas and so forth. Here, the belief is that the Vedas were not created by anyone. They're self-arisen, so they're held in great esteem. So then, all the Brahmins then generate a great deal of faith in the reciting of the Vedas and so forth. So they revere and pity Nigrantas because they adopt painful and deluded forms of behavior, such as mortifying the body through sun and wind. Here it's maybe not painful and deluded. Maybe it should just say painful, because deluded here is a literal translation, but the commentary is indicating that deluded in this case means painful.
This one.
No.
That's about look at that tambe member. All kinds of Lulia, Chi Namgur, teacher, Lulia, Tungimabunyanga, Chiruga, Tezo, check him out, Resera.
No.
To the church, check him out, Resera. Somewhere look at that. Consider Jagdish. Somewhere look at that tambe member to send this girl. Candidates, to me, lady Namish. To me, Yana Kora message, I'm gonna lady Nami young day, yours, culture. To me, lady Nami said, their church in Europe, the church in Madisera. Rangan young days of Doris. Tishi Kewa leg, Nami injured German is it. Oh, they are Barman does not Barman cave at the church, Chimala, the military, Nason drew Marisiora.
No.
Barman Transil cave some Blanco church, had a millimato dray or Marisiora. Do what does a matter. Nancy drew Marisiora. Louis Sirvana so bad to me. Nico leg in Nami in Bishes. Chitarin Yave to me she do choose me Yoshi about that and do the Kenyan church and Maras. Louis Chichuni, so to him the church and Maras. Shindo was a Transinam Kenesu, Kawayans, Transit to the Transit Kawalanza, and the Chimadani, the church has had a Transinam de Kenesu. Kawayang, when the lady Nami in Bechere, Mila Sobe, Mila Sobe, Turi, Tobji Chairman, you know, say, Turi had a made Tobji Chairman, yes,
No. No. So, this next verse is really just sort of saying that well, it says why those systems are not excellent teaching. They're sort of like from the viewpoint of a Buddhist. Then we're saying these teachings are like I don't know how to translate that, but it's just sort of laughable or ridiculous, and so then. The verse reads as follows: suffering is a maturation and thus is not virtuous. Similarly, birth too is not virtuous, being a maturation of actions, of karmic actions. So here, painful sensations such as mortifying the body are not virtuous, but are instead like the suffering in the hells, the maturation of non-virtuous actions. So it's sort of like, why would you, from the Buddhist perspective, it's just sort of like, why would you want to, put yourself in the hells? I mean, it's why are you? This is the kind of pain and suffering that you're under, what I say, voluntarily undergoing is it's simply the ripening of your former bad karmic actions, and so it's not any different from just being reborn into an unfortunate rebirth. Similarly, but the commentary continues. Similarly, because it is a maturation of past actions, as our eyes and so forth, birth as a Brahmin is not something virtuous enabling the attainment of liberation. There's a feeling amongst Brahmins that as we are born into the Brahmin caste, then we will be uh, will be able to be reborn into the higher realms and attain liberation and so forth. And then that sort of leaves the lower caste just to, never get out of, that they will be reborn into, miserable conditions. So then, just to be born into a caste, it's not something that's going to bring about a fortunate rebirth in your next lifetime or somehow liberation.
뭐야? 어디서? 다니바 렉션 도르도디 템바스 telengwe다. 네 치료받아도 템베체는 메고베 주센스도 제니도 와. 얘네다 렉션 도르도디 템바도 쉐요라. 아버니 뭐내서 깨와당 동에 최면은 최강시 이거도야.
So now we're on the second part for these next two verses. And this is the second part of the whole chapter where it says exposition of good explanations in brief, it'd be, as opposed to non-Buddhist teachings. We're talking about Buddhist teachings here, actual meaning.
다들이다 가서 담보에 깨와당 동에 최미나스야로 잠시 깨와나야디 최마레 아니 동에 맹아 템벌 소바 류를 까지 망보 양보데 동에 최마이나 안에 최가르스 저거와 강시 인제나세 샹나 네베 삼바당 대군에랑베 류가게 레네 샹나 차와인라 메세와네 텔레로베 개와주래게 남소식도와 어제나 최치 원도 나다 메고반 톱지기 최치 주고요나 어디 네 개와다 동에 최면 가시 샹라 네베 삼바게로와 아주 가서 미기 주셔봐 납신네심 로다라 소바테다게 샹라 네베 삼바다 대군에라네 류당 아니기 아니 샹지 소주발라 소바 샹 동에 와르체베 차와체바데 네 미기 와레 대빵바텔이야 아니 차와빵 바와서 뒤중간도 라다 미톱지 쳐래 소거라 텔레로베 미기와 주디 빵베 빵바텔라 아니 개와쇼 야야나 미기와 주디 빵 소주바 빵네 소교바 마지발렘바 빵네 집바통하세 어딘데서 봐자규라 대수 쳐래 찍디래 소거라 최니요래 찍딩만도 톱지 주디 내리 톱지 쳐시거라 당부도 찔라나
So the question here is, if birth means birth into the Brahmin caste, and suffering are not means undergoing all the ascetic practices are not virtuous, what is? The commentary responds, harmful thoughts towards others, as well as physical and verbal actions, thus motivated, constitute violence towards others. So, with as we explained previously, any of the non-virtuous, 10 non-virtuous deeds that are motivated by this harmful intention towards others, and then engaging in either physical or verbal actions, karmic actions, and that constitutes harm or violence toward others. Non-violence is the opposite of this, and namely the 10 virtuous paths of actions. So non-violence is where you abstain from these non-virtuous actions, or non-virtuous karmic actions, or engage in the opposite of those, which would in the 10 virtuous actions of saving life, generosity, and so forth. And this explains the practices that lead towards a higher rebirth.
그래서 너는 된다 가지고 있으나 셰 동에다 자원도 되더라. 셰 동에다 자원도 되지. 아니 셰리아 동에기 교 처음에지에서 처봐야 되래 셰리지. 셰 대화다 tre반도네 잠베심게네. 셰지 소교 봐다. 그래서 셰리아 진짜 동안으로 써봐. 걔가 줄을 줘야 돼. 줘야지 거라. 잠바다 줘서 미고는 처봐야 돼.
This is explaining compassion and also love. When you engage in non-violence, when you avoid violence or abstain from violent karmic actions toward you don't want to bring harm to others. So it's out of a sense of compassion. You don't want to bring harm and suffering to others. So then you avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions. Then out of love for others, wanting to benefit others, then you engage in the 10 virtuous paths of action. Wow.
쉐는 돈나 메세와 대신식과 남게 숨을 스틸리서 대체마데 동이 냥엔 대바데 데르니 등이 버시고서 쉐니바데 가르스나 근데 때나 둘이 톱지게 쉐는 돈나 메세와를 대신식과 남게 숨서 제라 카르바 토버지베 쉐는 랑신게 주베 동반이 랑신게 냥대다 돈데니 무슨도 제베 동에 그 매제에 최전도 통해 루브르기 주마다 제와 아니 루브르기 주제기 냥에는 대바데 데네 매체와다 냥데 데니 바시코서 당내에 토브지게 최대 가래서는 데네 동반이 ቆ네 차단 중으로다 데네 타르바 토레 데레 동반이 데레 랑신기 냥데스 민다요라 디 공발을 때네 아니 차단기 냥무세네 아니 가서 미네베냐데 또 그래서 거라 타르바토가 쳤다 너무 세가지고 거기고 어디 대체 relatives churches the need churches
No. No. So this is one teaching, and then so the verse states as follows. There are two teachings, and so then this verse makes that point. In brief, Tathagata has explained virtue as non-violence and emptiness as nirvana. Here there are only these two, the two dharma, two teachings. In brief, Tathagata, in the commentary reads, in brief, Tathagata say that the principle through which one attains a high rebirth is non-violence. So that was explained. The principle through which liberation is attained, so that's higher rebirth. Now we're going on to the certain goodness. The principle through which liberation is attained is the natural nirvana, the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. That all phenomena are exist, exist, I would say, that all phenomena lack inherent existence or existence from their own side. By directly experiencing this and recognizing that suffering will never arise again, there is separation from adventitious stains, the nirvana of separation from adventitious stains. This is saying that through this practice of what do you say? Meditating on emptiness, then, and directly experiencing it, then one will attain a what do you say? A nirvana without remainder, and that just simply means that one will attain liberation, so here in this system there are only these two.
Tini tongju nyangen de sigdwa. De shin nyangen le de shin jawa jeba yin serwa. She sheba da tongnam tomne se tongba ni kom ani teba che samba che musum du to so no tongnam togre sigwara. Tongnam tomne ani nyangde samshi tobare shagi se de tobala pungbu maluba gagba mege so se tongnam tomne ani komne 양엘엔 대바 좀네 타르바 토고 레스 그거 되니 통주 양엘데 되니 통주 양엘데 통에 선대가 라려야 아니 양엘엔 대두래 자좀베 대부 토고 레스 그거 대신 자와제바에 예세 코아 방에 그 랑게 자좀바 자와제바 쓰기도 랑게 랭게 코알레 타르바데 대제바 쓰기도 되니 토바 시고 통남 통내 양데 samshi tobara shage se de tobala pumbu malu banga ba megososo nyangde tobala ya soar doshi changman gane mero chago ma resi gora megoso kam diri otechila tendeso yeah.
The 60th stanza of reasoning says, Nagarjuna's text says, when reality is seen, nirvana is attained. The task is accomplished. So it is posited that having reached the path of seeing, when you directly cognize emptiness, then one attains mere nirvana. That's nirvana, but that doesn't mean that so that means that this mere nirvana is sort of nirvana nirvana in your own lifetime, and so you don't need to give up your aggregates in order to attain nirvana. To attain this, all the aggregates do not have to cease. The reason for explaining this here is to show that one definitely needs to understand emptiness to attain liberation. No, just that Driso.
Oh yeah, Taniba Chiribe to Tembe Chula Megube to Sankare Sigora. Dishegua. Chiriba Nambi Tube Temba di Tongshin to Yang, Tube Temba di Sawan Neba, Young Death of Jigi Tabimba, Yamu Yimba Haku Viku Gilia, New Kubanese Carres Nasigua. Tongshin do Shui Nibundilla, Migu Shin has to it.
So this is in the outline is the topic is why outsiders and non-Buddhists do not appreciate the teacher's doctrine.
Kyola kangi tubar yuruse, kande sigdasna, rangcho nyambala chagbe cherise, rangcho jigden tamje la kesa shindu se, sigdwa. Sosu cho dele chagba yo shenja yo de sigdwa. Didar rangi cho la chagba ni pena sigdwa, rangcho se, chagbe pedele jigden ba tamje la, thongma meba ne, 곰베에서 랑초라 차바 챵초라 당와 세르디 그 지금바 저 통만 배번에 곰데 요래서 거라 저한테 나저 최 인 삼제고 그 챵자 요래서 파주들 곰베 랑게 계서 유 신도 도진 차베 동면대 바르죠 나세 랑초 지금 탐제라 계사 신도 도좀 나세 소소 계사게 파유대 소소 대서 롱바디 술래야 야부 sor그래서 거라 계사 신도 도좀나 이동화 통그래서 가부 통그래서 거라 어디 나시 고쳐대 고 소소 쳐지 상 가부 통이 신자식 요래서
네.
동교 나세 대 도버를 제배교 켜라 관계 도버를 요세 ранчо 때 도버 제배 그 대다 개와세 랑게 초때 도버 제배 교대 산제게네 가르소데 교대다 개와 메세와다스 치료발이야 서와 망부 용교라 심지어 망부세 녜말 lokso 용구도와 심지어 추기 추진스제 심지어 대세샤나 고 타르바 군조 살이야 누구제시거라
네.
다 남바게 될 까고 잡세 군조 살은 누구요네 계란게 부부도 중에 야마다나 같이 가세 계란 부부도 야당 거로 와세 대 말에 시거라 일단은 군조 살 누구요네 소수 부부도 중에 땅고라
Och det kan säga sen det grundköpsala droger.
이거 세나 세베 심진이 군조 살 누구시거라 그 개와지 있으거라 이게 그래서 그 차와 치어서 나 또스 요라 되시거라
det den där kyrka.
랑촌 도버 제베 두테단 개베세 메세와다세 근데 다 요레서 그 셰셰거라 다 요마르 동반이레 다미다 버레스데 개진 개와디 셰기어라 그데 야고면도 간주테다 개기도 삼지고 가병 마로 이레스거라 제자와 최니분디 치료바 켜라 교 관계 두 번에 주르세 메세와다 아니 타르바토베 동반이 치데 가부 가용 그래 고란주 셰 랑기 초데다 베카가레스거라
네.
어디 소소 초데를 수이네 저 동문면에 꼼데오래 소소 파이네 시지 야고 면에 가지 되요라
네.
랑기 따와 멤발라 멤바르 셴베 산제지 춘디라 메주고스 소소게 따와데 양다 바이네 면에 그때를 신자 신부해서 수저들이 저기요 말했어
So the question is, when outsiders are aware of the Buddha's teaching, why do they not appreciate these two principles? The verse reads, to ordinary people, their own position, like their birthplace, is attractive. Why would you find attractive that which precludes it? So the answer would then be because they are attached to their own mistaken positions. Attachment to their own position is something like ordinary people, something ordinary people have been accustomed to since beginning of this time. They have a strong attachment to their own, ways of doing things, seeing things, and so forth. So this is a likened to, in the next verse, to liking your own, where you were born, and just your homeland, your where you come from. Like their birthplace, they find it attractive and do not want to give it up because of their attachment. So they have a strong sense of attachment, seeing it attractive. And so why would outsiders find attractive these two principles which preclude and are contrary to their own position? Why would you outsiders find attractive these two principles which preclude and are contrary to your own position? And this is, for instance, the non-Buddhist philosophers, the followers, performed a lot of sacrifice. They feel that to do sacrifices to your, sacrificing animals and so forth to your your deities, whatever they might be, is virtue. That they're when they kill the animals will then be reborn with their deity in the deity's pure realm, and so the Buddhist answer is, well, why don't you kill your own children before then they'll be in the pure realm before you get there. So then, but anyway, then, yeah, right. So then, and then the idea, contrary to your own position, is they're holding very firmly onto a self that, or a person or self that exists as its own entity. Then why would they then take up this idea of emptiness, where such a self is said to not exist at all? It just sounds. Why would they? Hearing that they should be non-violent and shouldn't harm any sentient beings or any living beings, and then hearing that they should adopt a view that espouses that the self that they adhere so closely to it doesn't exist. Why would they ever want to do that? So it says here, you do not follow the Buddha's teaching because you cling to your own wrong views.
소소 계서 롱바이나 네 계서 인스케제고 야부인베 신자 시기마 레스요라 랑이 계서데 레야 견통네 그거 예바이나 저는 롱바 신달 반도네고 약속들은 두고 레스요라 랑이 계서라 그베 교통네 대판네 저베 유신라 템바다 알스요라 저는 자와 리베 되는 신레장 Now
we're on the final topic of the outline, the third part here, which is advising those who seek emancipation or liberation to adopt good explanations. This is verse 300. So out of 400. So then, the first part of the commentary reads, wise people who see their birthplace as a reason for their difficulties leave and settle in a prosperous place. Wise people have no trouble to leave their birthplace, their homeland, and go to a better place when they see the difficulties there.
Nima sadeng mingden la kunje chitun mayinam sigdwa. Nima shaya de ko chitan kangal ya penya chidu sangre mado. Na kashel pengu kashel mengu samsung yo mare sigwara. De na shiko sanje chu songbati yanko simje kangal pena samsung yo mado. Ngai cho dile pena shendala se tinde choke yo marwa. De ko leban de ba sui na ti langho ba de sigwa. Kanshi komba wando dan tarwa tobe ribe tone shenji shungle jang londen lebar dobe langgo gre sigora kena nima cholun da teve nima liya kashe le tongju kashe tom tinde ke yo mare cholun da teve sadin da nebe mingden la nawe chawa chebe kunji chitun du cheba menam kangal Chibali Kangal Sharki or Esivara. Minam de invitation to Chun de Nijans, one to Tobjiki Chudan, Nele Tobjiki Chun de Nijansura. Yamsulana, Tamjela, Pentova, Kona Yimbe, Gubadan Dembe Chun de Javara resource, Rana Pendo Yore, Simjation, the Pendo Yore, Pendo Yore Chede, Lanko, Long Chari, no long shoes on Yora. Oh, yeah.
The verse then reads, "The intelligent who seek what is good adopt what is worthwhile even from others. Does the sun not belong to all on earth who have sight?" It's saying that the teachings of Buddha are like the sun. That they don't. The sun it goes everywhere. It's not. It doesn't shine in certain spots and not shine in other spots. The Buddha gave his teachings to benefit everyone, not just to benefit a certain crowd of people. So then the explanation of the verse is as follows. Likewise, intelligent people seek what is good and therefore adopt those points which they're able. Intelligent means that they're able to distinguish what is good and what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what is to be adopted, what is to be cast aside, and therefore adopt those points which facilitate the attainment of a high rebirth or liberation once familiarity with them has been gained, even though they are from others' texts. So the sun is unbiased and therefore provides light for all on the earth who have sight. Does it not belong equally to all? Similarly, the practice of these two principles can only be of benefit to everyone. They're given by the Buddha to benefit everyone. Thus, it is fitting to practice them, and with a sense of appreciation.
This one? Don't do that. They remember started in the Geshe Nuji Tsenyin Danja this. The Barshebe Nuji Tsenyin Sum Shebanashi, Training Benut and Dembasha or Sura. Can she talk with Tanzin La Chakres? They talk on and it said that Dr. Zimbala Soba, Temple Zimbala Soba, they should have to do this on Gara. See Jews, Sibako, Juji, Lamgi, Migwa Tartu by the Karas and Komja Tartu by the Tension Reverend John Ranshim about the race. Then data, Tension Reverend John Latene, Thabkhe Champagne Jilla Soba, Chimbala Soba, Tesula Sungiore. Ranshim Meba Suzani, Chagana Soba, Nemushi, Tabula, or till a Kebar Chas of Gua. No to it suits Jabba Oshe. Nibali, you sent a vanich and you sent the Naji Shigebe, and Namshe Lepership and Nemushi Chowder. Pawaka Wakomba Temple, the Rabtu was Chuni Ventreba, Deba Osa.
Then the summarizing verse here is, become a proper vessel for good explanation. There was explained what kind of qualities a good listener should have, and so then you make effort to produce those good qualities within yourself, and so become a proper, and also become learned in the inherent existence, the non-inherent existence of dependent arising, the final object of the path that severs worldly existence, the understanding of which frees from attachment to extreme views. So here, when it's saying non-inherent existence of dependent arising here is understanding dependent arising is the basis for the practice of the method aspect of the teachings, where you're generating love, compassion, and practicing all the methods, the means to be of benefit to others, and then the non-inherent existence here is the practices that overcome our afflictions, attachment and hostility and so forth. So then becoming learned, it means become skilled in these practices. This is the 12th chapter from the 400 on the yogic deeds, showing how to meditate on refuting views. This concludes the commentary on the 12th chapter, showing how to meditate on refuting views.
Oh yeah, that's all that. No lo suru chiro, go te yang jashi lo, pe so ne shag marwa. Oh the rabdu cheba tambo, tagbara zimba pangbe tabdemba. Chizun tamba tuji chimbo da demba namna cha cha lo che.
The Java the goal I heard.
Go ta so go ne ta de malam na digra.
No.
Chidan ko shung zo so na. So ta shag men do temperature se se yang go ne to so go zu do. Oh din go zu me te so
So then again, I didn't want to just to end with that. It's a kind of custom to then, instead of when you come to the end, to then begin from the beginning again. So the beginning says the translator's homage.
I'm sorry, say it again.
The custom is to begin from, not to just, when you end the text, then you don't just leave it at that. You go back to the beginning and say something from the beginning. So just as a good dependent arising, or auspicious dependent arising, I'll say that the beginning of the text, which reads, the translator's, what do you say? The translator, oh, sorry, no. The beginning, I think, is way back here, where it says, at the beginning of the text is actually, must be on page 60, which says, homage to the exalted Manjushri. No.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go so
Is it okay if I read a little something and that it won't take too long. I have this prepared.
Oh yeah, I got so that she gave out the Rapshi Sarsoa. Oh, they got so that. Because it's a traditional law, tradition which or cousin toes not the Rizako. Yeshe. Yeshe near the Pesha long to Masama. Oh, did something. My sheba was 7 marriage. Something Lozawa 7 marriage. Kasha 7 never or Tinder Chung you did it. Pesha the 7 Chung you did it.
So usually you have to read, in preparation to read a text like this, you have to read it over very carefully with the commentaries and prepare very assiduously. Unfortunately, I was sick and spent a lot of time resting. So then I didn't have the chance to really prepare this, properly. So sometimes my readings of it must have been unclear. Also, the translator undoubtedly had some trouble translating some parts, and those are unclear. So then, but for the most part, and I'm very hopeful that it came across clearly.
Oh yeah. You need to go Kasura. Sharawasti, Kumbaki, Kindima Samaki, the Ninchambuches, Nenche, Jotus pay Yabudos, some of the nice teacher to pay,
You members of the Sravasti Abbey then have have listened and thought this over carefully and have asked, thought these teachings over carefully and have asked some very good questions. I was very pleased with this, and I also admire your doing this.
Oh yeah, tene kar so da. Maranju tos ti te lo che she ya te. Tanda kar so da. Kino ma cha ma ke te ni cham bu che te she na. Ya bu chi she to na sam ma ju. Ka ba yo se wa. Ka re se no kon ju ya bu shen so na. Kon ju shen da le la che che. Yam ba li ya pe ke me ma bu pen do yin gu de se.
Then you're what do you say, renunciates, or those who have taken the vows of a renunciate and have taken a great interest in learning this text, and this is very pleasing to me. Why? Because if you learn this well, then you can it will be explained to others, and so this is very good as well.
Oh, chidako shiram ke pharo tu chimbe tongbanye ke tanda shete shejin ke de tanda de she gore tinga ran je chik pa chik she chik me chik chili tu ne pe ya de pe ke chimbe da sunam chimbe sa yora oh ti ne ko sunam mabusa yore ti sanje sum shabe dona chika she do tinga sun dan ge yes.
In general, when you study the teachings on emptiness and read the what do you say, the sutras that teach emptiness, this has a what do you say, accumulates a great deal of merit, and so it's a very good thing to do. And I thought to share with you some of the statements in Sutra that express the great merit in doing this.
Jambe Chanju Samba Thabkhe Batan Treve, Keba Jadon Paru de Chimba Tula Cheba West. Tongbani Mato Nitani, Chanju Samba to the Keba Mongolia, Chimba Chudin Sura Sambi Shirap Solo Lovale, Kangi Chegi Namdan de Tezumda Chebe, Nyemba de, Sunam Tevejan Che Mando Kene, Tezum Mever Nyemba Tashi Muse, Telejan Sunam, and Tongbani Shejin, Tongbani, Tezumda Cheba, Kandechina, Samje, Nyambatia, Sunam Chimbo Teve, Hagbe Sunam Savio, that Tezum Mever, any Nyambatida, Telegan Sunam Chewa, Savati, Tanji Mese, Geshe Mare Serchera, Kangi Yigijiva, the Lumbaba, the Kangi Shejin, the Yiginal Jibatara, the Lumbaba, the Shenapa, Cheva, Sosu Chama, the Shendala, Gashi Rabdo, Temba. Taji Mills or Shandala share the condition, Sunam Same was about it, Taji Mills and oh, did you love that? My love Shaka.
So there's this is in the Ocean of Reasoning, translated Ocean of Reasoning by J. Tsongkhapa. There's a translation of that. J. Garfield and Geshe and Samden. So then it says here on page 16 that the Sutra Samuccaya says, the compendium of sutras says, through aspiration towards the profound Dharma, all merits are accumulated because it accomplishes all mundane and supramundane benefits until one attains enlightenment, as the Dharakaratna Datta Sutra says. Manjushri, the unskilled bodhisattva who practices the six perfections for hundreds and thousands of aeons, is exceeded in terms of the merits he cultivates by one who, in terms of the merit, then that's a lot of merit for doing that, but the greater is the merit of exceeded in terms of merits he accumulates by one who listens to this Dharma with a dubious mind, with a sense of doubt, let alone by one who listens without doubt. And so just listening to it, and by anyone who inscribes and orally transmits it, also has this, there's no doubt that they will accumulate a lot of merit, and carries it, and then teaches others extensively. And even, there's, what do you say, no need to even mention that the amount of merit that one would accumulate by teaching it extensively.
Chu Ganga ge Jeme Zhangda Nyambe Chu Ganga. Di Jeme Zhangda Nyambe, and Jigan Kamlia, and give a me Suinako, Sanje Shin, Jeme Zhangda Nyambe Tuzulia, Jambushin Natungi, Chuba Purina, Sunam Kandisagre, Sangua. Oh, Dele, Mambusagre, Dele Janhawa, should have departed to Chimben, Susu Cheba Chicken Yambada, Sheba. Dewe je pen che sungwa. Oh, di ngaranzu chena. De rebuche na ki jigden je kam tende le cheba pyo ma. Dawa ji cheba kajin ji pyo na. De pen chimbo re samgidwa. De ngaranzu pen jo da tende le kabu song sa ngiro. Di she buche re samgiro. Ya di chö de che tarwa da tamje kemba sabin shaya de sam ji ke chewa ke mare. Sho le ji chungna chung. Majuna Masu Samsari Chira, Diri Mado, Tende Mune Samutana, or Tende Pen Chamburi Sumudua, being the Pen Arazu, Sonami Soma Busai or Restare. I cannot lose election and do the details changing that.
No.
Can election
No. So then there's an example here. Of the amount of virtue that one would accumulate. For instance, if you take the number of grains of sand there would be in the banks of the Ganges River, and those within the river itself, and then if and you filled up as many worlds as there are as grains of sand, as all these grains of sand, you filled these worlds, all those worlds up with 7 kinds of jewels, and then offered them to Tathagatas, then wouldn't that be a huge amount of merit? And I think we would sort of feel that that's really a huge amount of merit, and listening to these teachings or giving these teachings about emptiness that have, it's just sort of, well, you get it or you don't get it, and maybe it's clear and maybe it's not clear, something like that, but we wouldn't think that it would be a huge amount of merit, but then it says that those who grasp even a stanza of this kind of Dharma and share it with others would achieve far more merit than those people who made those kinds of offerings.
Oh yeah, that is in the cool. Don't some down Tabachi, Signy, in the Shavina, Miki was you led Septim Busai, Ting is only get to Mares or let the city new grace. No addition to diligence of your passive and massive and so 참매배 레사 유나야 디야고 개와치마 참매기 야손레 끼그레스 근데 셰투고 말이지 레드 시디 뉴트브레스 것도 어디 내장가라서 디바다야나야 동반이 코미디페 디바마부터 안 되고도 와 그래서 그 다른 가라서 이 말로네 디브라티는 도와 디네 디 동반이 코리아 셰 네 디네 티 레바미티스 이기티에도 송고도 와 어디서 선은 셈해봐 바금에봐 사니 디바마부터야 디네 산지게 템발라테야 네 디나시 마오발야 랑게 네 미신 네 데바 유네텔 셰고라 네 데바 메나 수셰로 지세나 파인지 미지 셰고라 수셰로 지말로나 파오수 제지 셰요 말세라 남비추진 어딘지 제노고 템발 카노 템베 켈로마수 마오볼레가 셰토 그래 단다 제부터 치수 이라요 네 마오발야 템발 페베 차르 마보나토게 저와도 말하미에 상만을 야구시 센서 말아 소모도 사서 부지체 스타시델레 저한테
So then it goes on to say further that through listening to this and that it talks about how it affects if we've accumulated any through study. Now through listening and explaining the teachings on emptiness and studying them and thinking about them and then through this kind of practice, you eliminate you purify yourself from many from karma that's going to bring about harmful fruition in the future for yourself. And in addition to that, if any kinds of the 5 heinous crimes that the karma that accumulated from that you may have that will certainly bring about rebirth into unfortunate rebirths. So all of these different karmas that are going to bring about unfortunate rebirth you're purified from those. So then this having then listened to and thought about and these teachings that are on emptiness, you've accumulated a great deal of karma. You've purified yourself from a lot of very bad karma, or bad karma, and it's so then that I very much admire and I'm very pleased that you were able to do this and have these teachings, and so with that in mind, then I wish you all what do you say? Good fortune. So then, Dashi Dele. The teaching on Milam Tungo. So we don't have to say the dedication here because we've just made the dedication. Well, that's all. Oh, so it didn't go in the bank. Oh, sorry. No, this is the translator making a mistake right at the end. we better dedicate this. Okay. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samanta Bharja as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Did you take it? Yeah, but so it's sorry, just was a little late, but went overtime.
Together.
Diana, bye-bye, Sugar Day. Okay. Diana.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for your great effort and good questions, and we hope that we can meet again soon.
Yep. Yes. Good luck to you all. Study hard.
Study hard. Teach. Okay, bye-bye.